My hair is really tall today. It's really tall today.
Real tall. It is super bright. This is ridiculous. Yep. Gonna find a new spot to make this video. Pierce is growing out his beard though.
He's got a beard. It's a thing.
This week on James Weekly, I realized that I haven't really told you a story yet on my channel, so I wanted to tell you a story about something that happened to me over the summer. I try to be a good child. I try not to get myself in trouble. No one likes being in trouble, and sometimes I fail miserably, and James can be stupid. But sometimes I can do everything perfectly correct, and I get in like going to prison kind of trouble. I go to this camp every summer. An L, there's a T, and there's a C. It's a leadership training conference. That's LTC, and you're in a group of people for 3 years, and you go through the like grow as a group together. And there are actually people from Scotland that came over, but this was our last year, so we wanted to have a goodbye party for our Scottish friend. So our mentors, Nate and Jenny, whom we all love, decided to host, generously. But they live about a half hour from my house, and this is during the summer when everything was going wrong. All my cars were dying, and I was driving Lance, and I will put a picture of Lance in the video. Hot car, right? The battery had died literally like the night before I was going to this party. We thought we had it fixed, but the battery was like drained down to like nothingness, and I was like, well, as long as I drive, it'll charge, right? And then it's about like 11:30. It's getting close to midnight, and I get in my car and I'm like, as long as it starts, as long as it starts, as long as it starts, and it starts. It's out in the country, so there's nothing at all. I'm driving down the road, and their neighbors has like 4 or 5 cop cars outside the house, and I'm like, what is going on? But none of the lights were on or something. I was like, oh, maybe they crashed a party or something, I don't know. And there's a CD in, and I had the brights on that bright. So when the lights start to fade and the radio starts going shh, and I'm like, the radio's not even on. I was like, okay, this isn't good, the battery's dying. So I pull up ahead of the stop sign and I park the car and I turn it off. It barely made it across the intersection. He literally dies in the middle of nowhere country at night, and as you know, I love horror movies. So what does my mind do? I think of the worst possible situation that could happen to me. I think I'm gonna get raped by some freakish mutant human that comes out of this cornfield that's perfectly placed right next to my van at midnight. I call my mom. I'm like, Mom, this is what happened. I need you to come get me. And it's gonna take about a half hour. I lock the doors. I don't think the car locked. So to distract my mind for the half hour that I'm stuck here, I decide to call my friend, and I called Emily. And I'm telling her about how I'm gonna get raped when another car pulled up right behind me and turned on its brights. I froze, and I said, Emily, it's about to happen. She proceeds to laugh at me. So he starts pulling up alongside of me and flashing this light into the van. And I'm on the phone with Emily, and I lifted the armrest, and I'm literally like, let me get a chair. So I'm sitting in the van chair, and I lifted up the armrest, and I am like this, like holding on, trying to stay clear of the windows, because I don't want him to know I'm in there. I don't know who this freak is. And at this point, I'm literally like starting to hyperventilate, like I think someone is going to break into my van and rape me right now. And Emily's just laughing her little butt off at me, because I'm literally like, what is going on? I'm gonna die. And I realize it's a cop. I'm like, Emily, I gotta go. I hang up the phone, and this cop, I think he wants me to roll down my window, but if you don't remember, the battery's dead. It literally went like this. I'm moving my hand right now. And I got it about a quarter way down, and the cop like pulled back behind me and then like walked up and was like, well, what are you doing out here? And I was like, well, I was at this party. Could you have given him a stupider answer, James? I don't even know. I proceeded to give him stupid answers, like this one. Oh, don't worry, my 21 and older friends were there, but they didn't buy me any booze. Like, what? the lock to the front door was pushed in because someone had tried to break into the van like 3 years prior. So he's looking at this, and now he's thinking that I stole this van. And my mother works for Kimberly-Clark, and every year they have an auction where the employees can bid on cheap products like Kleenex, toilet paper, and paper towel, and we stock up. And we hadn't emptied the van yet, so the van was full of merchandise. He asked me for my license, and I hand it to him, and he asked me, where the party was. So I give him my MapQuest direction, and asked me to step out of the car. Now that's never a good sign. Ever. Oh, he asked me if I was alone in the van, and I said yes, and then he proceeded to look at the van, and he was like, "Are you alone in this vehicle?" And I'm like, "I am. There's no one in there." And he's like, "Well, what is all this stuff in your vehicle?" And I explained to him about my mother, and he says, "Can you open up the back for me?" And I'm like, "Okay." Now there's a few issues here. One, I don't know if the back is locked or not. Two, my mother was at a bonfire with her friends the night before, so there very well could be some beer in a cooler in the back that she forgot to take out, because, sometimes that happens. And three, there's a bunch of shit in the back that's not mine. So he goes and he opens up the back door, and he pulls out this sweatshirt. He's like, "Is this yours?" And I'm like, "Well, it's my mother's." And he goes, "Okay." Or my parents finally pull up, and this is when he decides to tell me that there was a robbery 2 houses down from where my party was, and that he thought that all this shit in the van was what I stole from them, and that this van that was broken into, it was my escape vehicle that I stole and ran away in. I mean, I did not get arrested that night, even though I was a suspect in a robbery that I had no idea even happened. In the end, we had to get rid of Lance because he ended up being a piece of crap van. I kind of miss him a little bit. And all of you from LTC that were at Nate and Jenny's that night don't know this story. Now you do. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I had like over 50 followers on Twitter the other day. I don't know if it's because my videos are finally getting popular or if it's just, I don't know. Anyways, so continue to like me on Twitter, and I'll see you all next week.